Going on, guys? Another edition of the Connor and Mark Show. I'm Mark Rogers. I'm Connor Gabe. Today is a Wednesday, the 15th. And as we're recording this with March Madness officially underway, some of the playing games have started last night, and then also with NFL free agency still, locked and loaded, and a lot of big moves that have transpired the past couple of days that have a huge impact on the Eagles moving forward. And then later in the show, we'll briefly touch on the Sixers and how their stretch of hot wins is really piling up and how they can set themselves up for a pretty good playoff run. Mark, what's going on, man? How you doing this week?
Doing good. I know we discussed before the show, a little tired.
Yeah.
Had, everyone is around this time, but yeah, had the opportunity to actually call some games down at Iceland for the CHF tournament, which is now the AAU tournament, and pretty cool. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hockey House pod page, but I was able to make my debut on there with a call, so that was pretty cool over a Liberty Flames and South Carolina Gamecocks game. Pretty cool dynamic. It was pool play, so Alabama was behind the net, and South Carolina just couldn't let up two goals. They let up that second goal, and if you have an opportunity, check the video out because it's pretty cool. They went nuts as they made the playoffs and had an opportunity to pursue a championship in the tournament. So, pretty cool weekend here now, obviously, and back talking sports, back to what we love, and looking forward to diving into some Eagles news and obviously March Madness here. So good
Yeah,
week overall.
it's starting to pick up, and I mean, today's kind of the official day where guys can sign, and a lot of these deals are official. But we heard in the previous 2 days, on Monday and Tuesday, the tampering period. There's a lot of deals that came out. Notably, Javon Hargrave is going to San Francisco for, I believe, an $84 million deal. And then also they lost Marcus Epps, who'd be going to the Raiders. TJ Edwards, the starting linebacker, would be going to Chicago Bears. So three starters right off the bat end up leaving, and then but also some positive note. James Bradbury, an All-Pro cornerback last year, comes back to the Eagles. There's a little bit of a surprise. I don't think a lot of people are expecting that for a 3-year deal, which is just announced official as of recording. Boston Scott is going to be coming back. Jason Kelsey, obviously big time to have him back at the center spot. He's prolonging his retirement to come back for another season, for another run. And also today, big news: Darius Slay ends up getting cut. There was some contract negotiations, and it seemed like they were at heads, and it looked like that this relationship could end, and it ended up transpiring today with Darius Slay now becoming a free agent. So now there's, the bring back James Bradbury and Darius Slay is leaving. And, if you would have said that probably about 3 weeks ago, we would have been shocked if, we never really saw that scenario play. But a lot of moves have come. CJ Gardner-Johnson's still out there, and it looks like reportedly that they're making a big push to try and get him back, according to multiple sources. So he's another guy out there. He seems like the next domino to fall for Eagles free agents, whether or not they can get him back. So I know there's a lot of moves. A lot of stuff has happened the last 3 days, good and bad for the Eagles. But anything that stood out to you, and what do you think about the direction heading into the draft in April?
Yeah, I mean, we knew coming into the offseason there was going to be a lot of decisions to be made, and unfortunately, the fact of the matter was that they were going to lose, a lot of big players. But I'm really comfortable with the direction of this team. I think a big point that was made last year was, the depth of this team and kind of guys that are next in line to take that next step. We kind of discussed it a few weeks ago on the podcast as well, but from the cornerback perspective, obviously you got Reed Blankenship back there who made some big plays, and they were kind of expecting him to play a bigger role this year. Obviously from the running back position, bringing in Rashad Penny, and Boston Scott again to kind of replace that Miles Sanders sort of thing. And then, Jason Kelsey being one of the biggest one of them all, with the sick, I ain't, bleeping leaving. So yeah, I think, at the end of the day, there was obviously, can't keep everybody. You got to sign your quarterback. And that's kind of what all of this is revolving around. I like the Bradbury signing. I think that was very key. And yeah, I think the Eagles do have a pretty good shot of bringing back, CJ Gardner-Johnson. And we've seen how he be pretty magical with the cap and kind of work it there. So, I'm not gonna give up on it. I mean, CJ might be possibly one of my favorite Eagles next to Jalen Hurts and Devontae. So I would love for them to bring him back. He just has such a presence on the defensive end, obviously being the interception leader last year and making his mark here in Philadelphia. So I like it overall. The last thing, just the Slay cut. I kind of saw this coming. Unfortunately didn't have a great season. He didn't have any forced fumbles, 40 solo tackles, which ranked 150th plus in the NFL. And then, only 3 interceptions. So, when you're getting that paid, when you're getting paid that sort of money, and when decisions have to be made on the Eagles side, most definitely with money, and they have some younger pieces they can maybe plug in there, kind of makes sense. So I think they're going to go through the draft. I know there's some names like, Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State, who could be a potential pick, a replacement there, and some other things. So I think they're just fine. And, I think they're definitely making the right moves, obviously, with the main domino to fall with Jalen Hurts' contract. Muted.
It's always it's happened. It's going to happen at least once on the show. It's either you or me. And we're hoping to see that contract hopefully happens soon. But it seems like the parameters of the deal have already happened. If they're making moves like signing Bradbury and trying to get Gardner Johnson back, I'm sure that a lot of the deal is probably already agreed upon. But yeah, you're waiting on that, and you're waiting on CJ Gardner Johnson, whether or not he can come back. And then if that's the case, you get Gardner Johnson back, and then you have him and Reed Blankenship at safety. And then it looks like, well, in the secondary, we're just looking for another corner. At 10, do you, like you said, do you go Joey Porter Jr., Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, or Witherspoon from Illinois? Those are 3 guys that are mocked right around that spot at 10 in the first round. Or maybe they go defensive line with the guy like Jalen Carter, who's his stock has been dropping day after day with his pro day today, and it's just every day it keeps going down and down, and even at that point at 10, if he's available, do they take him? But it's interior defensive lineman that could really fill that Hargrave spot. So I know I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves in the draft in April, but with a lot of these moves coming down in free agency. But another interesting move I forgot to highlight was Rashad Penny, the running back from Seattle, signed a 1-year deal with Philadelphia. He was drafted in the first round, I believe, in 2018, 2017. And yards per carry, he's been one of the best running backs in football. I mean, when he's been healthy, he's been a really good running back. I don't know if he's worth a first round pick, but he's definitely worth a second round pick by Seattle. And he's definitely a good running back. When he's on the field, you can make the case he's a number one. But like I said, the health is the main issue. But what do you make of that move? And do you think that with him, Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott, that's a good trio?
Yeah, I really do like it, honestly. He's a bigger back than Sanders, obviously. He could be, maybe not your 3-down back, but he could definitely be a guy that you go to on 3rd down. His ball security has been pretty good over the years. And I know with Miles Sanders, that's always kind of a question mark. He's very shifty. He's very, agile, but sometimes his ball, security comes into question. So I really do like the 1-year deal with Penny. It's kind of like a gap year, but you're going to see that more with these running backs. Obviously, we've discussed the running back position is not valued like it used to be. So I think it's going to give Gainwell an opportunity to kind of step up. And we saw him phased more into the game plan last year at the end of the year. And I think they were kind of planning to hand him a bigger role this year. So I think it's going to play really well for the Eagles. I think it adds a little versatility to that running back room. And, I'm excited to see what Penny can bring. I mean, he had a hell of a finish last year, at least for me in fantasy. So I'm excited to see what he can do here with the Eagles this year for sure.
All right, I'll still want to buy us up before we head into the Sixers, because there's some interesting, things that can still transpire not only around with the Eagles but around the NFL. But I do want to start with the Eagles and with that running back point. Buy or sell Eagles? Do you think they're going to take a running back in the draft on day 1 or day 2? To add that running back room, or do you think that they're going to stay? Well, I'll just say this: would the Eagles take a running back in day 1 or day 2 in the NFL draft?
Yeah, I'm going to sell that. I think that they're going to really look for a defensive player, and obviously a lot's going to factor in if they hang on to that 10th pick, and then they have the pick at the end of the round. They're a little thin in terms of picks. I believe we went over this, but the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round they're not picking. So
yeah,
that's the reason I'm going to sell. I think they're going to move back more and then maybe value a running back like in the 4th or 5th round, and really go for, a defensive lineman, as you mentioned, obviously a cornerback being a need. I think they're kind of going to stick to those positions. So I'm going to sell on that.
Okay.
All right, for me, this is a big one. This team has been in the news a ton lately.
I think I
And
know who it is.
yep, and I hear a lot of people putting playoffs next to their name or Super Bowl, excuse me, but they haven't even made the playoffs. So I'll
Wow,
pass this to you. Buy or sell that the Jets make the playoffs this year.
it's a good question. I don't think they'll be better than the Bills. I still think the Bills win the division. I'm trying to think who else in the division.
Miami and New England.
Miami, New England. God, I'm gonna sell that they're not gonna make the playoffs. I think the Buffalo would win the division. I think Miami right now is better. If Aaron Rodgers had an Aaron Rodgers type season last year, I'd probably say yes. But I don't know. You're kind of seeing him go down
Mhm.
or so then ascend. And then I think with the AFC, man, there's so many good quarterbacks. I think even that wild card, it's going to be tough with the Chargers with Herbert, and then you got Russell Wilson with Sean Payton. I think they'll maybe have a bounce back. See, there's just so much talent in the AFC. It's going to be tough. I still think they have a shot. They'll be right there. It's going to go down on the wire with them. I mean, they were on the wire with Zach Wilson and Mike White. So maybe I'm being naive and thinking that they won't make the postseason. I think they actually have a shot. I don't know, because I just don't know if Aaron's still that guy. So, and I don't know if Robert Saleh, head coach, is. I don't know. I don't know a lot about their offensive coordinator. I don't know how, I mean, well, it's Nathaniel Hackett,
I
right?
think it's Hackett now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they had success in Green Bay, so I mean, maybe not.
Yikes.
But after a while, it seems like it was forever ago with that dude. So
Yeah. Oh
I'm
yeah.
gonna, I'm gonna,
He had a good year last year too. So
yeah, I'm gonna sell. I think that I think they miss it. All
I
right,
like
so
it.
my second one, it's gonna be um buy or sell. Lamar is gonna be a Raven by training camp.
Wow, this is a really interesting one. I know that that Jet domino hasn't fallen completely yet. It seems definitely towards the Jets. I hate to say this as an Eagles fan, but I feel like the Commanders are a potential landing spot in the
Well,
back
they
of
just
his
signed
head.
Brissett today, so I mean he's not like a starter in his league.
Hmm.
He's a very good backup, but
Yeah,
um,
you know what? I'm gonna buy this one. I feel like Lamar is playing really hard to get, obviously. There's been some disconnect there with the Ravens, but I think at the end of the day, they're gonna realize that when Lamar's in and he's playing and he's at the top, the Ravens are winning most games. So I'm gonna go buy, and I think he's gonna get absolutely paid at the end of the day.
I think he's gonna get paid too. But
Yeah,
it's weird. I feel like there's had a standoff, and I think eventually it's just gonna be Ravens are gonna pay him.
mhm.
It's probably not gonna be the money he wants, but it's still gonna be a pretty good payday.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I saw a stat the other day, like the winning percentage when he's on the field is like 80, it's like 85% of the games they win. So,
yeah,
I mean, not a big numbers guy, but when you're in the NFL and you're trying to win a Super Bowl, I think you got to go by the numbers a little bit. So I think they'll come to their senses once they get up to training camp. They'll kind of get to that brink and they'll pay the guy whatever he wants to kind of keep
well,
him around and go from there. So,
Mark, we got breaking news on the podcast.
oh boy, love some
Breaking
breaking news.
breaking news from Adam Schefter.
Oh,
The six-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Fletcher Cox is returning to the Eagles on a one-year, $10 million deal. The Eagles get, quote, a hometown discount as he turned down more lucrative offers. Wow. I didn't want to break up our buy or sell segment, but it seemed like a pretty big thing to break. I mean, usually
oh
stuff doesn't
man.
happen when recording, so I want to throw that out there. Instant reaction to Fletcher Cox being back. It seemed like it was a move that, we thought this year it was going to be his final year as an Eagle, but I mean, when you look at the defensive tackle room, it's very thin with Hargrave leaving.
Yeah, I think it had to be done. I'm probably a lot of people aren't gonna like this, but I'm not the biggest Cox fan.
Mhm.
I don't know. Obviously he's done a lot here. He's been a really productive Eagle over his career, but um, I think they could maybe get a little younger, but to your point with Hargrave kind of leaving, I think that's a guy, you can maybe plug in and let some of these younger guys play. So I like it. 1 year, 10 mil, not great, but I'll
I
live with
even
it.
I
How
even
about you?
think discount when I think discount, I would have said like maybe like 6 or 7, but
Was
I mean,
thinking like five, maybe.
yeah, I agree. I'm not a huge Fletcher Cox fan either. He's a nice player, but he just doesn't do much for me anymore. He's not really a true impact player, and he's never going to be obviously the guy who was in 2015, 2016. That's like one of the best defensive tackles in football. But yeah, I just think that this may have been a move where like we have to bring it back because like what else do we have,
Yeah.
So because listen, they got Jordan Davis, but he just didn't do much last year, and Milt Williams is a nice future player, but um, Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not a huge Cox fan. I agree with you in that sense, but I do think like it was a move they kind of had to make, and I think it kind of gives them some leeway heading into the draft, where it's like we have to get a defensive tackle, in the first round or the first pick. So, I mean, it sounds like they're going to go defense in the first round. Sounds like it's going to be defensive tackle or cornerback, but it kind of, I think it makes things a little bit easier moving forward at that spot, bringing him back for at least another year. So I don't know. I wonder how much money he was getting offered in the open market. If he's taking a discount at
Yeah.
$10,000, who the hell's offering 15, 20,
I
But
mean, dude, I some of these things again, like I love Bradbury, but like, lucrative the offers from otherwhere. I mean, he's a good player, but
yeah,
like,
even Hargrave, dude.
you
Like
know,
Hargrave's a nice
oh
player.
yeah,
He gets a
four
lot of
years,
yeah.
84 million. Whew.
He gets a lot of sacks at defensive tackle, which makes him really valuable. But like, yeah, I mean that's a lot of money, dude.
That's a hell of a lot of money, but it's yeah, I can't believe that. So that's kind of crazy that just broke right as I was about to ask my find or buy
Does
or
this have
sell
anything
question.
relation?
It
Does this have
literally
anything?
has it literally is tied directly with this. So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but buy or sell that the Eagles take a defensive tackle either with well, I don't think they're going to, but with that first pick, I believe at 10 or with their final pick in the first round.
I'm gonna buy. I think that Howie loves the
Yeah.
defensive line, and I don't think that them signing Fletcher Cox is like okay now they got their two starting guys and Cox and Davis. They definitely need another guy in there. And I think if I don't know, Jalen Carter's a little interesting. I don't know what to make of him. I'm sure the Eagles have their guys that do research into his character and off the field and how he's progressing as a prospect. But I think they do. They value defensive line so much and get to the quarterback. And I think a lot of they still have their edge guys in Reddick and Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham, guys that had double digit sacks last year. But part of the reason why they were so dominant and get to the quarterback is because they had so much pressure in the middle too. So they're gonna have to figure out ways to get some better players at defensive tackle so they can free up some rushing lanes for the outside guys. So I think that I'm gonna buy it. I think Howie like he's you have to look at him historically, and they value the defensive line. And I don't know what they're going to do at corner. I think they'll probably figure it out as it goes. Even that's what they did last year. Bradbury didn't get signed until what training camp, right before it.
August, yeah, late August.
Yeah, late all. Yeah, not training camp. Okay, yeah,
Maybe no, no, oh no, that was CJ. Sorry, they traded for CJ late.
it was
I think
probably
Bradbury
like
was a little earlier.
June, maybe if I want to guess,
Hmm.
somewhere around there, if I'm not mistaken. But they value D line, and I think if Jalen Carter's there, and I think all the boxes check, I don't know. I can see how he passing him, because he just
Yeah.
values it so much, and to get a guy that upside at 10, that would be pretty great value. So
Oh
I don't
hell
know.
yeah.
I've been in the opinion of at 30 they'll trade back.
Hmm.
I think to get some picks in the second and third round, but yeah, if I had to buy or sell it, and timing's very convenient with what just broke, but yeah, if
That
I'll
was
buy it.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was crazy.
Adam
Yeah,
Schefter was reading your mind, man. So,
I know. Me and Shafty kind of, I guess, think alike. So great minds think alike.
did you see
Like,
the Aaron Rodgers thing? Aaron Rodgers tweet with Schefter.
yeah, lose my number.
Yeah,
That's the most Aaron Rodgers thing of all time. But yeah, I mean, before we move off the football topic, obviously other big news and don't want to get too ahead in the draft, but the number one pick by the Bears being traded, they obviously got some
yeah,
draft capital back and a
yeah.
pretty good weapon that I'm really excited to see for the Bears and DJ Moore. What real quick before we hop off, what's your thought with that? And do you think they take Bryce Young? Do you think they take Stroud? Do you think there's an astronomical chance that they might take a defensive player? I mean, a lot of possibilities here. I think it's leaning towards a quarterback, though, obviously.
Yeah, and I was looking at the odds. Last time I checked, I think Stroud is the favorite by like minus 250, minus 350, somewhere around there. So my guess, yeah, I mean they're going to take a quarterback. You don't give that much assets and trade up all that just to not take a quarterback. So
Hmm.
I always look at the odds, and I remember like the day of the draft, like was it Trayvon Walker last year? Like the odds of him, he's like minus like 400. So like Vegas knows, and they always know who's going to go number one. And I think right now it looks like Stroud's the favorite. So I mean I like the move from both perspective. I think the Bears needed a lot more assets to surround Justin Fields, and I think now with bringing in a guy like DJ Moore, a number one wide receiver, I think there's no more excuse for Fields now. I think he needs to go out and make that kind of jump, that Jalen Hurts jump that we saw last year with his arm.
Yep. Very
And
similar player.
yeah, and with Aaron Rodgers leading the NFC North, man, is wide open. The
Yeah.
Detroit Lions have a shot. Are the Detroit Lions a favorite to win the NFC North? I mean, it's gonna be the first time in our lifetime. That's sentence that
Jesus.
ever been said.
Maybe
So
since the 80s.
Yeah, it's been a minute, and golf had a good year, and but I mean, listen, Fields was one of the more exciting quarterbacks to watch, but he didn't have the weapons. But now, they did just lose Dave Montgomery. I wonder how they fill out that running back spot because Montgomery actually just went to Detroit. So, Jamal, do they swap and get Jamal Williams? Do they go out and get Miles Sanders that running back? I mean,
Ooh.
there's a lot of there's running backs on the market if they want to go out and get somebody, but.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely. Yep.
yeah, they have the money to go out and get some guys, and they signed DJ Edwards at the linebacker. I'm sure they'll make some more moves. They'll have some more picks in the draft, and get some guys on defense because they need guys and get the quarterback of Chicago. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, the Minnesota too. I mean, we forgot about Minnesota. They're the one team that won it.
Yeah.
And so
Well, then
it's
and
wide
again,
open.
I know once we bring up draft talk, Jesus, everything goes crazy.
I
We
love the
love,
draft 24/7, dude. I love it.
yeah, we just get in the draft talk rabbit hole. But then that, raises the question if, if Jalen Carter's there, do they take him at 9?
Yeah.
So a
Mhm.
lot of questions there. They have a lot of holes, obviously, to fill. Obviously, one of the big ones was the wide receiver position. So getting a guy like DJ Moore and that draft capital, I think they really won that trade. I'm always skeptical, and again, I know we're getting into the rabbit hole, but
Mhm.
I'm always skeptical about some of these big time quarterbacks. Coming the one that comes to mind most recently is like Joe Burrow from LSU, and he has all those great pieces around him. You got like Jamar Chase, you got Jefferson. Obviously,
Mhm.
Randy Moss's son was a really good player at LSU when he was there. So it's always a little gray for me at least when these quarterbacks come from these really big schools. Personally, I hate to be a hater. I don't think Stroud is going to turn out to be that great in the NFL. I think
Mhm.
Bryce Young may have a better career, but there's a lot of questions around Bryce Young's frame and such. So it's gonna be interesting to see. The Panthers obviously don't have the best luck with drafting quarterbacks, so we'll see. But that's obviously to come a little bit later. So we'll
Yeah.
dive into draft talk most definitely. We won't forget about it.
Absolutely. So Sixers, they're what? Are they in Cleveland tonight? They're
Yeah, they're
playing.
in Cleveland 7:30, and they won their last 5, which is impressive as
Oh
hell.
wow.
They won that Portland game. I don't know if you had a chance to catch that. I think they were down by like
Yeah,
20 at
I was
half.
watching. I was watching the end. Obviously, with the big
Yeah.
shot that beat it, and he's just been on fire, man. I mean, right now the third in the East, and it looks like they're going to settle in right in that 2 or 3 spot, depending on how Boston favors in the last 15 games. And um, yeah, man, they've been. It's been pretty funny. I think a lot of people are just skeptical at the team at this point. They just want to see them get over the hump, even though that regular season wise, they haven't won the better one of the best seasons regular season wise, really post process. So, it's all a matter of getting to that second round, whether they face Milwaukee or Boston, and if they can be able to get over that hump. But yeah, man, they're playing well, and Harden's playing well, and Max is kind of getting to a groove. I think Doc Rivers right now is doing a pretty good job with the lineups and rolling out the guys. So I can't complain right now. Hopefully they keep this going. Hopefully they can lock in that one that 3 or 2 and then go into the playoffs hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like you said to your point. I mean, a lot of fans, especially me, I'm sure you're on this side, just really cautious with, how excited we get about this team. We've, haven't gotten past the second round, and that's really the topic of conversation. But I think this team is just so different in terms of the depth and pieces that they really have. Obviously, you still got a guy like Maxi.
Mhm.
Then you have players, that fill in, such as, a great player like PJ Tucker gave us fits when he was on the Heat last year. Really
Mhm.
love the acquisition also of Jalen McDaniels. I think he's a pretty big piece, a bigger piece than people may have thought. You have DeAndre Milton. So you have, or DeAnthony Milton, excuse me. So you have guys like this that I think are going to make a difference in the playoffs. Another guy that's really been stepping up is B-ball Paul Reed,
Yeah.
B-ball Paul. So, he's looking pretty good, and that's always been a question mark. That was one thing I really didn't like in that Simmons trade when they got rid of a guy like Drummond. I thought that was such a big piece for the Sixers to have a guy that you could throw in behind Embiid and chew up some minutes in the playoffs and then let Embiid come back. Obviously, the injury was a really scary thing last year. So I'm not saying Paul Reed's quite at that level where you can throw him in and rely on him for a stretch in the game. But if he can come in, eat some minutes up, give Embiid 5-7 minutes to rest and come back in, I think it's going to make a really big difference. And I even think there's a possibility the Sixers could even finish first. I mean, they're going to need a little push here, and obviously they're going to need the Celtics to lose a little more and compete with the Bucks there. But I think it's for the taking for them. I mean, they're playing on a real. I don't think I've seen this many comebacks of a Sixers team, for a really long time. The adjustments seem to be there as well.
Well, April 2nd and April 4th, they got back to back on the road in Milwaukee and at home against Boston. So, you
Two
know,
huge games.
huge games. And
I
then,
mean, they're only 4 out from the first spot, one behind Boston. So
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look at the rest of the season. I mean, Cleveland tonight is a pretty big game. It's Cleveland's a good team. They're in that fourth spot, like we said. But then you got what Golden State on the road in Golden State and on the road in Phoenix, and then they come back home and then on the road again in Denver. It's gonna be tough, man. They got a 3 game stretch on the West Coast, and then they come back home and then take on the Dallas Mavericks. So that's it's some pretty good teams, that are vying for some playoff spots, and playoff positioning right around there. But listen, as long as they fit in that third spot or that second spot, or even I mean, if they get the one, that'd be great. But as long as they're there and get home field or home court in the first round, and then I mean, they're gonna have to beat Boston and Milwaukee on the road probably anyway. But you're hoping that Embiid and Harden and the guys can figure out a way to do it. So, but you have to. They had a pretty rough start to start out the season. So for them to be at this point and the games that they've won or just a long stretch is pretty impressive. So.
absolutely, absolutely. So just got a few minutes, left here, and obviously big news starting tomorrow. We got the March Madness tourney, Connor, and always a good time. Obviously, you got brackets and go for that perfect bracket for just the first 3 games. For me, it's normally the second game, and then it's busted. So
Usually for me it's the first, so you beat and that's all that matters.
yeah, usually always fun, but I guess I'll come hot right out of the gate, and do you have a potential winner in mind for the March Madness tournament here?
Well, my bracket, I mean, I'm gonna preface this by saying I don't know a whole lot about college basketball, and so I picked Houston, and Houston's had a pretty good
Yeah,
year, obviously, so they're one of the better teams in college basketball. So there's not gonna be a lot of reasoning behind my point in regards to Houston, but I mean, looking at it from my point of view, it kind of seems like a crapshoot this year. There's not a lot of dominant teams, and but there's looking at the bracket. I mean, I took Houston, so I mean, that's
I like it.
I don't know who you took, but
Yeah, I mean, I like Houston. The one thing that kind of scares me is they lost a pretty big player. I don't know when his return is going to be. I don't know exactly who it is. But that's the one thing. Obviously, they lost the American Athletic Championship to Memphis, but I mean, we even saw that with now my pick. I mean, we saw Kansas, lose the Big 12, and I'm gonna go with the Longhorns this year. I'm gonna go
gosh,
horns up, baby. I think they're gonna come out with a vengeance. They got some really good players on that team. And I like seeing some new blood, there in the final and the final four. So I'm gonna go with Texas, and if I can remember off the top of my head in my bracket, I believe I have Alabama versus Providence. So that's gonna be my one sleeper to make it all the way to the final four. I just think you always get that one defensive team that finds their way into the final four, and sometimes it's a Big East team. So I'm gonna go Alabama, Providence, and then Texas, and I believe I have Houston, but I gotta look again. So we'll keep you updated on that. But yeah, I think the Longhorns hook them this year and bring home the March Madness title.
how far do you think Penn State goes? I mean, they made a nice run in the Big Ten tourney. Came out short against Purdue, is a good team, but do you think they make a little bit of a run? I know they may have to run into Texas, I think, in a round of 32, which is gonna be difficult if they do make it past 64.
Yeah, I mean, I think their first one's going to be tough right off the gate. I mean, they have the SEC, Aggies in their way who had a pretty good tournament in their respective divisions. So I think if they can get past the Aggies, 25-9, they're ranked as a 7th seed. I think that's going to really set them up. But it's all about these first games, and super cliche, but some tough matchups here in the first round. Just some other notable ones. You got Boise State, Northwestern. You got Auburn and Iowa, which is going to be a great one. Illinois and Arkansas. And then West Virginia and Maryland. So those are all tomorrow. And, two really good basketball teams in all those matchups, but obviously, one has to go home. So we'll see. But in regards to Penn State, I think they can make some noise here in the March Madness tournament if they can just get past the Aggies there first.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, it should be exciting. I'm excited for that. I'm excited. I mean, we'll probably do some more stuff for free agency and this whole month, and then once April hits, then we get the Masters, right around the corner. With
Did, did you
yeah,
see Scheffler's dinner got put out today?
I did. It looks pretty good, man.
It does.
I did. It did, and like I said, I was looking at that, and I liked who won in 2021 was Tanaka. No,
Yeah.
Hideki
Um,
Matsuyama. Yeah,
Matsuyama,
yeah, he
Strixon
won.
guy.
Yeah, his menu is good too. So yeah, I
Yeah.
always find that interesting when in the build up to in the Masters week. And do you have an early favorite on who's coming in the Masters week? Is someone you're looking at?
I mean, dude, it's always hard to repeat. Chef's just been unreal, man. I mean, I know we were texting back and forth about it last week, and stuff that guy can do with a golf ball is just out of this world. I mean, if I had a hundredth of what he could do, maybe I'd be a decent golf player. But yeah, Chef's always a good one. I always like Spieth. Spieth made a pretty good push last week at the Players, and then the week before that he had a pretty good one at Arnold Palmer. So he's good. And then my other one, really good player. My brother actually ended up meeting this guy at the airport, but Colin Morikawa. I like
How to get
Morikawa
out?
as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I like Morikawa too. He's been playing really well. I like Max Homa. He's been on
home is
fire
good.
lately.
I
John
mean,
Rahm's been hot.
there's just so many good guys on tour, and obviously you see it in the documentary Full Swing. But I
Yeah.
mean, dude, week in and week out, you just got guys going at each other's throat, obviously. But yeah,
Mhm.
the pool is really good for, some of the talent they lost to the Live Golf, but it's gonna be interesting. And I'm pretty sure that the Live Golf guys can play
Yeah.
in the Masters. Yep. So
And the PGA Championship.
and the championship, and I think the US Open. So
I think all the majors, I think, play.
all the majors. Yep. So it's gonna be interesting, man. But if I had to pick one, I'm gonna go with Chef, dude.
Yeah.
That guy's just dialed right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Yeah, well, it's definitely coming up, and we'll make sure to get out in front of it, do some episodes in that, and also with the NFL draft at the end of the month in April. So a lot coming up, but yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Like we said, that we'll try and put this out on social media, get some more videos out coming soon, and any more NFL free agency updates, we'll make sure we get it out. So alongside Mark Rogers, I'm Connor Gabe. We'll see you guys next week.